Okay, welcome everybody. As everybody is just filing into the room in the digital world. Welcome to this last episode or last event in this season of Dracula Lunchtime Bites. We've loved presenting these, and thank you for attending so many of them. Nice to see so many familiar faces. So we've timed this last one to coincide. It's Derby Dracula Day on Friday this week, in case you weren't already aware, the whole year of the project. The Derby Dracula team are all here. Matt, Dan, Duncan, Kelly, myself. I don't think I've missed anyone, have I? If I have, I'm sure they'll tell me very quickly. So Dan is going to be representing the team today, and he's going to talk about what the project has done over the last year. Dan's been extremely active, doing all sorts of things. And we just want to emphasize that the whole project is really, it's not just us. It's been all the people we've been working with. It's all the, this Lunchtime Bites is a really good example. All the speakers who've presented over the last year or so of all our kind of co-collaborators. It's a co-production with all of you, all the people we've been working with on all sorts of aspects of the project. And that's really important to us. Is it's not just us, it's a really big co-production with the people of Derby and beyond, really. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Dan, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for questions, and if any of the other team want to kind of add anything at the end, but I'll leave it to Dan for now.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. And yes, as we say, happy Derby Dracula Day for Friday. I've got a short presentation about what we've been up to for the last 12 months and some new research we're exploring. So I'm going to share my screen, and there will be time for questions and of the other team to jump in if they choose to towards the end of the presentation. The biggest change, I suppose, as you might be aware of already, is that we have moved from Dracula Returns to Derby as a project to now the Derby Dracula CIC, a community interest company to raise awareness, to continue research and champion and celebrate the incredible link between Derby and the world's most famous vampire. This was decided in team because, frankly, there's a lot more we want to do, but also there's a lot more to do. So you'll see in the future slides that there's ongoing research, events, projects, conversations, collaborations, and we are so grateful to everybody who's been a part of the journey so far, and we cannot wait to see where this is going to go. So I'll talk first about one thing I'm proud of a lot. I'm very proud of the exhibition. So as many of you will have seen by now, of course, the Dracula Returns to Derby 101 years and counting exhibition is still at Pickford's House until the middle of June, and I'll touch on the exhibition. First and foremost, to say a thank you, a huge thank you to everybody who's been involved, our Drac ambassadors who've donated objects, who've commissioned work. 2024, 2025, Pickford's House, one of 3 museums cared for by Derby Museums. It is notoriously the least attended museum. It's the smallest space. It's the most challenging space in terms of access. And with 3 spaces in the city, historically, Pickford's House is the one less attended until Dracula returned to Derby. Visitor numbers the year before, just over 30,500. Visitor numbers last financial year with the exhibition in, over 15,500 people have come to the doors. We've seen some amazing people travel across the country, and a few weeks' time, we've got the British Satanists are going to be in exploring the exhibition. And the great thing about the exhibition, we've had temporary objects, everything from first edition from Baker Stoker, who is bringing Letters of Bram Stoker tonight on short-term display. We've had Hammer Horror autographs, some amazing commissioned work, as I said. Yeah, so just first and foremost on the exhibition to say thank you to every single person who's been involved, who's supported, who's visited. 15% increase in visitor numbers across the year and a spike of 7,700% sales in the shop. Which, again, not about the money, but every single penny spent in the museums supports keeping the lights on in the Museum and Art Gallery we're sat in now, Museum of Making, and, of course, Pickford's House. So very grateful, very happy, very, very proud of the exhibition. I'm happy to say early doors, but for those who know Pickford's House, we are exploring how we might reimagine the Dracula corner in the Toy Theatre exhibition to not only reflect the new research we're undertaking, but also some of the things we've had made, some of the objects we've acquired over the last 18 months may go on permanent display There's two objects, especially we've had donated to the museum, a program from Bela Lugosi's run in the 50s, and a series of Bela Lugosi autographs have been donated to us. So we're hoping they might go on long-term display rather than go back into the archive once the exhibition finishes. And speaking of upcoming projects, as we mentioned, happy Derby Dracula Day. We've got an amazing week. This is the first of a series of events we're running this week. So as I mentioned, Dacre Stoker is going to be with us tomorrow night, doing a late night exhibition opening at Pickford's house. On Friday, I'll talk about that in a second. I'll go back. Here we are. On Friday, we're going to be launching the Derby Dracula audio tour. So this is our walking tour, which is readily available. But as of Friday, you can scan the QR code and have an hour and a half guided tour around Derby, linking all the areas of interest for Dracula and other horror Gothic elements of the city. We're really excited to launch this. It's been a lot of hard work supported by University of Derby, Visit Derby, Derby City Council and other partners. And the best thing about it is not only is it free, it's going to be available at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single year. So on Christmas Day, if you find yourself hankering for some Dracula on Christmas Day, you can come into Derby and walk the Derby Dracula audio tour. Also, Kelly sat next to me has done an amazing job since last year of organising alternative Gothic markets with Quad and other partners. And there's just a few of our amazing painted body models from our first event in February at the Derby Market Hall. There they are, but the event was a Quad. So we're going to be continuing on with our markets, supporting makers, finding new makers, and again, raising awareness of the amazing links between Derby and Dracula. Personal favourites, on Friday night, we're going to hold the second Poetry Doesn't Suck, the Vampire Poetry Slam. So as some people may aware in the room, Chris White was crowned the first Count of Poetry last year. Chris is on the judging panel this year. He's not redefending his crown, but he's going to be judging. And yeah, we've got 10 slammers taking part, sharing poetry. Slammers from all over the country are coming to Derby on Friday night, and one of them will be named Derby's second Count of Poetry. And the really exciting thing is Dacre is going to be one of our judges, and Dacre Stoker is not only going to be reading poetry from Bram Stoker, but to close the event, Dacre is going to be reading passages from Dracula the novel, which we're very excited, very grateful for. Yeah, so even if you don't like poetry, come along to Derby on Friday night and hear Dacre Stoker read passages from Dracula. What a wonderful way to celebrate Derby Dracula Day. And then on the Saturday, I'm going to be doing a similar talk than we're doing now, talking about, as we mentioned, what we've done over the last 12 months and also what we're planning to do. And speaking of planning to do, I will touch on the continued research of the Derby Dracula team. So in April, just gone, like a lot of Gothic enthusiasts, we visited a place synonymous with writing, linked to one of the most important writers the world will ever know, Stratford-upon-Avon. Why did we go to Stratford? Why did we go to Stratford-upon-Avon? For one reason, of course. No, not Willie Shakes. Willie Shakes, indeed. We went, of course, for Bram Stoker. The Shakespeare Birthplace Trust hold the Bram Stoker Collection, a collection made up of assorted letters, correspondence, images and theatre programmes from the Lyceum Theatre in London's West End, where Bram Stoker worked for 27 years under Henry Irving, the first actor to be knighted and a true pioneer of the theatre. It is speculated that Irving's performances, especially that of Mephistopheles in Faust, were partly the inspiration for the role of Dracula. And through research undertaken in Stratford-upon-Avon, we now know Irving and Stoker visited Derby in October 1904 as part of Irving's farewell tour, performing 5 shows across 3 nights from October the 20th to the 22nd at where else but, of course, the Grand Theatre in Derby, the site of Hamilton Dean's adaptation a mere 30 years later. The reason we went to the Birthplace Trust is because they hold 2 programmes. So, 2 programmes of Bram Stoker's version of Dracula, the stage play version, performed on the 18th of May, 1897, 8 days before the publication of the novel. It was at the Lyceum Theatre where Bram Stoker staged a seemingly rehearsed reading behind closed doors of a stage play of his upcoming novel, performed only once at 10:15 in the morning. It is assumed this was to secure the copyright for future stage adaptations of the work. Professor Catherine Wynne also suggests that the reading of the novel with stage elements in mind also supports Bram Stoker's theatrical ambitions. The bench in Whitby, for example, being one key set piece for the majority of Lucy and Mina's interactions and easily replicated on stage moving forward. Stratford holds 2 copies of the programme. A draft copy stating the performance would start at 10 o'clock with a slightly different cast, and this, the final version of the program with correct casting and a 10:15 time start. You will notice the play is still called Dracula or the Undead. Stoker allegedly still undecided on the name, even so close to the publication date. The cast includes Edith Craig, daughter of Ellen Terry, who played Mina. On the back of the program, it states no fees of any kind will be needed for the performance, justifying and clarifying this free performance, with the audience being made of friends and supporters of the theatre to fulfill the quota needed to constitute a public performance to receive the copyright. The version, which performed on that day on the 18th of May, was published in 1997 by a Nottingham publisher of all people. Ridiculous. So close to Derby. We've actually just managed to source a copy of the script as well. We're going to be looking at over the next couple of weeks. And the play consists of 5 acts plus a prologue, a grand total of 42 scenes, which took an estimated 4 hours to perform. As legend goes, not only did Henry Irving turn down the chance to perform as Dracula, much to Stoker's disappointment, but also described the reading of Dracula as dreadful. This is echoed in a review of Hamilton Deane's adaptation in the Evening Standard years later. And this is a bit blurry, but forgive me. So it says, I have before me a programme of the copyright performance of Dracula at the Old Lyceum Theatre in May 1897, given by permission of the late Henry Irving, whose manager Bram Stoker was. It started at 10:45, and there was a prologue, 5 acts, and 42 scenes. I am wondering whether it was over in time for the Lyceum's evening show. It is a relief to know this arrangement was not used at the Little Theatre. So again, this is a review of Hamilton Deane's adaptation, not only confirming that start time and date, but also maybe highlighting that maybe Bram Stoker's version, which again was never meant to be published and produced properly, or fully, I should say, was maybe a little bit longer than it needed to be. In addition to research at the Shakespeare Birthday Trust, we also found some fascinating stuff about Bram Stoker himself. I'm mindful this is a little bit blurry on the screen, forgive me, but I'll tell you the gist of it. So this is an article about an auction of letters and correspondence of the late after Bram Stoker's passing. And on auction, the letters include, so this is basically saying that some of the letters in the auction are correspondence between Bram Stoker and some of the key literature cultural figures of the age, including Rudyard Kipling, Walt Whitman, P.T. Barnum, and Buffalo Bill. I want to know what P.T. Barnum and Bram Stoker were discussing over correspondence. For those who may not be aware, Walt Whitman is often described as the most important homosexual poet of the age. That's a title I've not quite got yet myself, but I'm aiming for it. Got to have a little joke, forgive me. It's got to be done. But of course, speaking of jokes, yes, we made a joke about going in April to where everyone goes in April. We did, of course, go to the wonderful Whitby for the Whitby Gothic Gathering. It was a beautiful weekend, and I'm going to touch on a few little bits, just looking at what we learnt in Whitby, what we discovered in Whitby. We had a really progressive conversation with Whitby Museums, who showed us some great archive pieces they hold, and they've also accepted a copy of our research project book into their archive. So from now on, the Dracula Derby project book is in the archive at Whitby Museums. Very, very appreciative. And for those who haven't been, they've also got some great Bram Stoker objects and collection. This is Bram Stoker, for example, signing the museum guest book during his visit when he was in Whitby. Fascinating and wonderful things. We've also made contact with Whitby Abbey, and we're going to be exploring how I might work with them. And I also, for those who haven't been, had a very fun but very scary time at the Dracula experience in Whitby, which if you haven't been, you must go next time you're there. So that's just a snapshot of the research we're looking into. We're also exploring Montague Lemon, who played Quincy P. Morris in Derby's adaptation, and exploring what Kelly's exploring on gender and looking at how that role was gender swapped for more female performers. And yeah, just trying to learn more about A, Montague Lemon, and B, the female performers of the show. So that's a very quick snapshot of the work. But yeah, there's some time for comments and questions, and thank you all for listening.
That was amazing, Dan. There's so much packed into that, and obviously you've been super busy. And yeah, is there anything, I mean, there was an awful lot there, and the project has been so been running for a while now, but it's so kind of wide ranging. Is there anything that anyone would like to ask about in terms of anything that's happened or anything that's going to happen, or just tell us how great the project's been in general.
Or any ideas they might like to see happen. Like we're open
Yeah,
to, if there's
absolutely.
something we're not doing and you think we should be touching on, there's any research we're not undertaking or anything you just want to see from the team, you've got us all in the same room. So now is the time.
Jenny, I see Jenny's got her hand
Ah,
up. Do you want to unmute yourself, Jenny?
Hello. Um, I was just wondering if you guys were aware of the Icelandic, I believe it was, translation of Dracula, where the person who translated it basically rewrote the book and wrote fan fiction, and it's a lot more steamy version of the book. And I just wondered if that would be something that people are interested in looking into, to see how it's changed from there. Um, I've been trying to find a Icelandic to English translation, and I've not been able to find one, unfortunately, because I am dying to know what actually goes on. But there's a documented thing online where you should be able to find something to do with it, and I wonder if that would help with them exploring gender and queerness, especially.
I do know about that, Jenny, and I've been interested by it too. I have not read it, but we've really been looking for a volunteer to kind of take that idea and maybe explore it, maybe perform some poetry on that idea. Thank you very much for volunteering to do that for the team there. I
I
think.
can't think of anyone better to do that than Jenny Rayner. For the record, separate conversation now. Fantastic poet, and yeah, going to be one of our slammers on Friday night. Not to put Jenny on blast, forgive me, Jenny. We do have a copy of the text in house, and there's also a Derby researcher who didn't exactly do research into this for us, but has touched upon the Icelandic version for their own research. So yeah, I think it's definitely something of interest, as all adaptations are for for the team and the wider project.
I like your framing of it as fan fiction there. That's interesting.
Or fang fiction, as it were.
Fang fiction, nice. I see in the chat, I see Gray Rogers, same surname, no relation, has expressed appreciation for the project, especially the exhibition and getting to meet Dacre, and has loved these lunchtime bites. Hopes they return. So there's a little bit of update on that. We can say we're not 100% sure if there's going to be a third season of Lunchtime Bites. If there is, we'll absolutely let you know. But what we can confirm is that kind of in its place, I guess, is the start of a Derby Dracula podcast. Woo!
Ooh.
We've already been having conversations about that. So watch this space. We'll keep you posted, really.
Am I muted?
Oh, you
No, we
good?
can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I got a few things to sort of talk about, and I don't know if we mentioned that. So one of the things is that the funded project where we had AHRC funding, and obviously we did lots of things, and we funded lots of people to do amazing things and collaborated with, and then what we did is we saved a little bit of cash, not a lot at all, but we span out a CIC, a community interest company, which holds that money, and we've been applying for further funding from that. It's not an academic thing now. It's shared amongst all of us speakers now. Obviously, some of us work at universities and in heritage, etc. But and so that means that we've funded less stuff, but we're developing. We're obviously developing events that we're now charging ticket prices for. We're developing market trading, the Dracula's Bazaar that Kelly has done. We've also got a lot of merchandise and stuff. And the idea is to grow that and make it stable so that we can get back to a more regular kind of funding people to do interesting projects. And so, and it's been really good because everyone is so supportive of it within Derby and within the larger Gothic alternative community as well. Yeah, we've had a few sort of highlights recently. You might not know this, but we were mentioned in Parliament. When is it? I think it was on the March the
Yeah.
the 5th. Yeah. Catherine Atkinson MP for Derby North, I believe. Yeah, and she thanked partners for their work in reclaiming Dracula as a son of Derby, and there was a little bit of a sort of head-to-head with the Whitby MP, which was pretty cool. And you know, we've had coverage before in the Guardian, the Stage. I mean, Dan's been interviewed there, and I think BBC Radio Derby, Dan, are looking forward to doing some activity
Yeah,
on
I was
on
going to
Friday.
mention. Thank you, mate. Yeah, so again, to touch on that, just obviously in the build-up to Derby Dracula Day, you know, we've got journalists with us Thursday night with Dacre, Friday morning, East Midlands today, hopefully going to do some coverage. So, you know, Derby Telegraph, we've got an article going out this week, and Radio Derby, we've done a week of coverage leading up to Friday. So, you know, as Matt says, the great thing, and again, the reason it's so important to carry on is because A, we're not finished, but B, there's still that interest. We're still getting inquiries. We've got 2 journalists coming up. You know, there is still a lot of interest in the work and the research, which is all the more reason to carry on because, you know, even today I speak to people who don't even now in Derby do not know the link after all the work we've all put in. So there's still a lot to do. And as Kelly and I mentioned earlier, you know, there's not that blue plaque yet. There's not that statue or that mural as it stands to say if you're coming outside of May, you know, there is something tangible to see to celebrate the link. So we've got a lot planned and a lot to come. So one thing I talked to, and you know, this is why the Shakespeare Birthday Trust have been so fantastic as a lot of our partners and cultural partners and heritage partners, because not only did it give us the access to the archive there, but it gave us a few days space just to research. So as I mentioned, we've discovered that from the 20th to the 22nd of October 1904, Henry Irving and Bram Stoker came to Derby. Irving performed at the Grand Theatre, as I said. But what we're really trying to pin down is if it's the Midland Hotel, which is off at the train station, what are the rooms? You know, this is it. Where do we know? Is there a logbook? Is there a reception book? So we've discovered there is a Midland Hotel archive held by Derbyshire Heritage or Derbyshire Records Office, which I'm going to meet in a couple of weeks, just to see if in their logbooks, in their correspondence, they've got anything that says, you know, we welcome Mr. Irving, Mr. Stoker. Because now we've got the dates and the year, you'll all appreciate those in the room. We do the research. It's so much easier to, we're not looking at 1904, sorry, as a whole. We're looking at 1904, October 20th to 22nd. So if it is the Midland Hotel, what are the rooms? You know, where do they stay? Because, you know, for those in the room who know, like Stoker was such a meticulous note keeper. It will be written down somewhere. There will be record of this, believe me, in receipts or correspondence or travel plans. So, yeah, so we're looking for anything that can really pinpoint, as you've got in Whitby, of course, knowing that Stoker and Irving stayed in whatever rooms it is in the Midland Hotel. That's the next step for that.
Thanks very much to Dan for kind of putting the work in for today and doing the talk, and Matt and Duncan for hosting these events. So watch this space for the podcast, if not more Dracula Lunchtime Bites. We'll end it there and we'll see you at the next thing.